Okay, so today we're going to be doing factoring special cases. We're doing perfect square trinomials, and this goes along with 8-7 in your textbook. I want you to put the notes to these on page 62 in your composition book on your left side. I would like you to stop the lesson, copy down the examples of what a perfect square trinomial looks like, as well as the directions on how to factor a perfect square trinomial quickly. Then once you do that, come back to the video and I'm going to explain to you what the steps mean. Okay, so now that you've copied down the directions, the first one says take the square root of the first term. So we want to take the 9x squared, and the square root of 9 is 3, the square root of x squared is x. Take the square root of the last term, square root of 4 is 2. Then it says multiply the square root of the first term by the square root of the last term. So we're going to go 3x times 2, which is 6x. Then take that answer and multiply that by 2, which is 12x. If you get the middle term, then it's a perfect square trinomial. And it is, it's a perfect square trinomial. So therefore, then you take your parentheses, you put your first term here, the square root of it, the last term here, the square root of it, in parentheses. The middle term determines the sign between the two terms, and square it. And that's your answer. That's your factored form of a perfect square trinomial. Okay, here's some other examples. Okay, so again, we're going to take and we square. We first look to see, is there anything that I can factor out of here? Is there anything in common? There's not. So I'm going to take the square root of the first term, which is x. Take the square root of the last term, which is 4. 4 times x is 4x. 4 times 2x is 8x. And I have the middle term. So I put my plus sign between there, put my parentheses, square it. The plus sign came from right here, the middle term right here. Okay, now I'm going to look, is there anything here that I can take out? And there's not. So I take the square root of the first term, which is x. Take the square root of the last term, which is 8. 8 times x is 8x. 8 times 2 is 16x. That should be an x and not a n. Then check to see if it's the same term. It is. I put my negative here and I square it. Okay, the next one, I look to see, is there anything that I can factor out? Well, this has a 4, that has a 4. Does 81 have a 4 that I can take out? And let me divide and see. No. Okay, so that doesn't work. Nothing I can take out. So I take the square root of the first term, which is 2x. Take the square root of the last term, which is 9. Then I go 2 times 9 is 18x. Multiply that by 2, and I get 36x. That's my middle term. I put my plus in between, I put my parentheses, and I square it. Okay, this one looks like the same thing. There's nothing in common, so I take my 2x, I take my 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 18 times 2 is 36. Perfect square trinomial. This sign this time is negative. Parentheses, square it. The sign comes from right here. It's a negative. Alright, the last one. I look to see if there's anything that I can take out of these. And it looks like a 2 because they're all even. So if I take a 2 out of here, I get x squared. If I take a 2 out of here, I get negative 18x, I think. So 36 divided by 2. There's 16, yep, 18x. And then 2, and it's 62. So it's going to be that 16 and then 2, 81. Okay, so that's what I'm taking out. So this is a positive 81. Okay, what do I do with that 2? I'm going to keep it. That's part of my answer. It's at the end. Is this a perfect square trinomial? If I take the square root of the first term, I get x. Take the square root of the last term, I get 9. 9 times 1, because remember that's not part of it. 9 times x is 9x. 9 times 2 is 18x. Did I get the middle term? I sure did. I put my negative sign and I square it. So here's my answer. A perfect square trinomial, but I need to make sure that I keep that 2 with it. Okay, so there's my answer. I'm going to erase all these things, all the work that I did. And that's your answer. Okay, perfect squares trinomials.